Hello and welcome back. Today we're taking a deep dive into the evaluation of the Stanford Prison Experiment, led by Philip Zimbardo in 1971, one of psychology's most iconic and controversial studies. We're skipping the setup and focusing purely on what the study got right, what it got wrong, and what that means for psychology as a science. Let's get into it. Welcome to Life TFA. It is because this life is lived at three levels: as we think, as we feel, and as we act. I am Amit. I have some experience teaching, training, and talking about behavior, mind, brain, psychology, and psychiatry. I'm here to dive deep into these issues with you. Let's begin with the strengths, because despite the controversy, the study wasn't without its contributions. One major strength was the realistic environment. Zimbardo went to great lengths to replicate the prison experience. Participants were arrested at their homes, fingerprinted, and placed in a prison-like setting. The guards had uniforms, batons, and mirrored sunglasses. Prisoners were dehumanized with smocks and ID numbers. This realism encouraged authentic reactions, making the findings more applicable to real-life institutional settings. The experiment provided compelling support for the situational explanation of behavior. Ordinary students with no history of aggression quickly adopted abusive or submissive roles. This suggests that behavior isn't always the result of individual personality. It can be heavily influenced by the social context and assigned roles. The study helped shed light on real-world abuses in prisons and military settings. For example, the mistreatment of detainees at Abu Ghraib in the early 2000s showed striking parallels with Zimbardo's findings. His work has since been used to inform prison reform and training to prevent institutional abuse. What do you think? Should it be lauded for contribution or criticized, or both? Comment below. Also comment what topics interest you in psychology. Now let's look at the criticisms, and this is where the study really falls under scrutiny. The experiment is often used as a case study in what not to do. Participants suffered emotional and psychological harm. One prisoner broke down within 36 hours. Others showed signs of depression and extreme stress. At the time, the American Psychological Association's ethical guidelines were not as strict, but by today's standards, the study would be entirely unacceptable. Although participants signed up voluntarily, they weren't fully informed of what they'd experience. Arrests at their homes and intense psychological pressure were not clearly communicated in advance. Also, the right to withdraw was not respected. When one prisoner asked to leave, Zimbardo, in his role as superintendent, tried to convince him to stay, blurring professional boundaries. Zimbardo acted as both the lead researcher and the prison superintendent, which compromised objectivity. He became personally involved in the simulation and failed to intervene when things escalated. This undermines the credibility of the research and raises serious questions about oversight. Some critics argue that the participants were simply acting, rather than being truly transformed by the situation. Several guards later admitted they were imitating characters from films. This suggests the behavior may not reflect natural conformity, but rather demand characteristics, participants behaving how they believed they were expected to. The study only used male American college students, all from similar socioeconomic backgrounds. So, it's difficult to generalize the findings to women, other cultures, or different age groups. This limited sample honestly reduces the external validity of the study. In recent years, the Stanford Prison Experiment has faced renewed criticism. For instance, leaked audio recordings and interviews with participants suggest that Zimbardo's team may have encouraged guards to adopt aggressive tactics, which actually contradicts the claim that these behaviors emerged naturally. Also, the lack of standardized procedures, no proper control group, and Zimbardo's own involvement all contribute to questions around its scientific reliability. Some psychologists even argue the study is more of a dramatic demonstration than a controlled experiment. So where does that leave us? The Stanford Prison Experiment remains an important milestone in social psychology. It opened up crucial discussions about power, conformity, and the influence of social roles. But, ethically and methodologically, it's deeply flawed. It teaches us two things: First, that environment can powerfully shape behavior. And second, that psychological research must always balance insight with ethics. If this evaluation helped you understand the study more clearly, give it a like and hit subscribe for more psychology breakdowns. Want us to cover Milgram next? Or maybe a modern replication study? Let me know in the comments below. See you next time.